Monday, September 10th. I'm Rim.
I'm Scott.
And this is Geeknights. Tonight, it's that time of the year, and we cop out with a Tech News Roundup.
Let's do this. Due to lack of opening bit news such, and because we're doing a show full of news, if you looked at the title, I'm just gonna start with a little geek bite. I guess it's sort of a geek bite. I don't know if it really
Sort
counts.
of?
Yeah.
Why's that?
Well, so at work, right? Everyone, they have an Exchange server, and everyone with their Microsoft's offices is using Outlook, whatnot, right?
That's fine. We have, like, freaking group-wise.
Oh, God.
And at IBM, we had Lotus.
Yeah. But, you know, one of my coworker, the only other Linux guy, the other developer, he uses, like, Evolution with the Exchange plugin and stuff. And I tried to get that to work, and it kind of works, but it's not perfect, and it's kind of slow and laggy, and I'm not a fan. So I just been using the pop, you know, and it works for me. But the pop stopped working because the sysadmin guy, I don't know, he broke it, doesn't know how to fix it, and he won't restart the mail server.
Ha!
So I've been using the IMAP. And switching to IMAP from pop was kind of a pain because of the way, you know, desktop email applications work. Oh, and of course, you know, Gmail is awesome and desktop email applications suck. Let me get that right out of the way.
Oh, yeah. I mean, once I went to Gmail, I'm never going back.
So in switching to IMAP, I said, well, I can use I don't have to use Evolution here, you know, which is what I've been using. I could use anything. So I tried Evolution and Thunderbird and Sylpheed and Kmail. And they all suck balls. And that's all I got to say is desktop email clients all suck balls. Every last one, none of them are good.
I guess the few I used before I gave up on them, I was never really happy with, and now that I have Google...
They all are exactly the same. None of them offer features. Some of them might be lacking of features because they're the light ones. But, like, you know, Evolution, Kmail, and those big four, right? They have all the same features. They do all the same things. They work in exactly the same way. There's really no differences except for, you know, the specific arrangement of the interface, but the interfaces are generally all the same. There's only slight differences that aren't very meaningful, and you could use them all interchangeably, and they all suck balls.
Huh, so no news, just a geek bite.
Yeah, so if you're using some sort of desktop email client with POPs or IMAPs...
Stop it!
Stop it. It's not good.
Yeah, granted, almost everyone has to use something like that at work, but frankly, I couldn't care less what my company makes me use because it's their time, and if they want to use something slow and inefficient, whatever.
It's not about, you know, what I care. It's you know, I'm using this thing. I don't want it to be any more unpleasant than it has to be.
I just don't care. Worst case, I just stop reading my email at work.
Oh...
Right, so along those lines, I don't have a news either, but I don't have a geek bite, I have a geek back.
Oh, man, I didn't see any in there. What did you see?
Well, this one's a slightly old one from, well, not that old, from August, but from Vicus, who was written to us and a few other podcasts.
Isn't it vicious?
No, it's not, because it's spelled differently.
It's Vichus.
Yeah.
Which I think is just a way of internet spelling vicious, sort of like Liek Mudkips.
You know what? I refuse to. That's like, way back I played The Realm, right? And we formed a little clan or guild called the Harpers, and we all had names from all the D&D books. But the name Elminster was already taken, so I had my friend, the great wizard Elminister. And I just...
I don't know why that's funny, but that's a really good one.
I couldn't deal with that.
Minister.
So anyway.
Okay.
Vicus writes... You guys have a great point about the incestuousness of podcast networks. I believe this is in reference to when we were complaining about...
Another geek bag?
When we were complaining about all of our friend podcasters for promoting each other all the time.
Well, it was when I did a geek back where someone suggested we make a podcast network, and I said, podcast networks are stupid, we don't need one.
Yeah, but anyway, to continue, just feeding off of one another for common listeners, but in the example of comics podcasts, I'm obviously glossing over some pretty bad grammar here. Sorry, dude. Isn't the listenership really going to grow depending on how many people have an interest in comics? I mean, even the most casual of podcasts out there that discuss comic books don't seem accessible to non-geeks. Now, I think you're kind of wrong here in that, well, I guess technically you're perfectly correct. A comic podcast can theoretically only have as many listeners as there are podcast fans, plus the, 1 to 5% of people who listen to podcasts about things they don't care about. And there are people like that.
Yep.
But I don't think you seem to realize that I would say maybe 5 to 10% of comic book readers, if that, and I'm talking about the upper bound, have ever even heard of a podcast.
Yeah, I mean, there are a zillion comic book podcasts, and in terms of geekeries out there, it's that have podcasts. Like, comic books is one of the geekeries that has a lot of podcasts, talking about it. But even then, there are so many more people who are into comics. I mean, even though that is such a small number of people relative to other things, because comics are sort of, marginalized and niche these days, especially in the U.S., and podcasts, there's just so many more. Despite the small number of comics readers, there are even less podcast listeners. That's how small podcasting is.
Because other people have said this to us before. Hey, if you're just focusing on geeky stuff, then you've already got all the geeks, and you're not going to grow from there. No, we don't have any of the geeks. We have so few people listening to podcasts, period, right now.
Yeah, I mean, if we're limited basically by the inability to get more people to listen to podcasts, period. Not the fact that there aren't enough geeks out there.
I mean, think of this. Let's look at the world of anime, Japanese animation. According to Wikipedia, there are only like 2 or 3 podcasts about anime that even have any reasonable listenership or worth. And yet, how many people who watch anime listen to podcasts? We go to Otakon.
Think about it. We go to Otakon. There's 20,000 people at one convention. How many people listen to Anime World Order?
Yeah.
Not that many.
We spent most of the time at our Artist Alley table explaining to people what a podcast was.
Some people were like, they were like, I don't have an iPod. I was like, wait. They're like, I don't even have a computer. I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah, people who don't have the internet. Kind of like how on a recent Anime World Order, Dara was doing his con report about the anime fans who are off the radar. Like the people who go to one con and they've never been on the internet. And they just don't know about anime.
But they've never been to any. They don't even know there's such thing as a con.
Well, no, what he was saying is a lot of those people end up at like one local con. And their anime culture isn't known to most people because it's not on the internet. It's not there. You'll never see it. These are the people who've never even heard of Cowboy Bebop, never heard of Otakon, never heard of a podcast, don't have internet access. They're like 30 years old and they like, whatever they like. Go to a dealer's room, see a CDR. Obviously, that's legitimate.
They have no idea. They're just completely clueless. They like anime because they've seen it somewhere and they're into it, but they're so clueless as about how to really get into it. It's a total mystery to them, and they're totally out of the loop. And you know what? Those are the vast majority of anime fans. There are thousands upon thousands upon thousands of those people out there. And 0 of them listen to anime podcasts. Because as soon as they listen to an anime podcast, they're not one of those people anymore.
So I guess the moral here is the topic of a podcast has almost nothing to do with limiting the audience. Because there are enough people out there to satisfy the demand for just about any topic in the world.
Yeah, I mean, there was a podcast, I keep bringing it up because it's some example I remember from the early days of podcasting. There was a podcast about Australian real estate. Think about that.
Well, I mean, that island is pretty big.
Yeah, I know. But that podcast could get a bunch of listeners. Think about it, like every real estate agent in Australia. That's thousands of people probably. But then no one knows to listen to podcasts. That's their limitation, not the lack of potential audience, the lack of actual audience.
So, I mean, I guess my advice to all you podcasters out there and aspiring podcasters is don't play promos for other podcasts. Don't I'll promote your podcast if you promote mine. Don't even bother with that. Because if they're listening to podcasts at all, they're going to find your show no matter what you do if they want to listen to it. And there's no reason to market to these people or even care about these people. No offense to all of our listeners, but you've really got to do the Nintendo thing, the blue ocean. Go out there and find the people who really want a radio show about making very detailed models of, the woman who played Wonder Woman's breasts.
But they have no idea that it exists, and you have to let them know.
Find them and tell them, hey, you know what? There's a radio show or a video show or a TV show or whatever on the internet that's about everything you like.
For
and
free.
It's totally free.
And you can watch it whenever you want, or listen to it whenever you want, wherever you want. OMG.
Yeah.
You don't even tell them like a specific show. You don't have to pimp any show in particular.
Yeah.
Just get people who are not podcast viewers and listeners to become podcast viewers and listeners. And then as soon as they realize how the technology works and how they can take advantage of it for their own entertainment, they will find the show or that they want to listen to or watch on their own.
I mean, look, at Kineticon, we did a panel on podcasting. We didn't even really say what show we did for a long time or talk about ourselves at all. We talked about all the other podcasts we like.
So stop trying to like up your listener numbers by trying to like group together people who are going to be listeners of your show anyway, and just get more listeners into the, make the market grow rather than trying to eat out a bigger piece of this incredibly small pie.
Yeah, but anyway, thanks, Vicus. You brought up an interesting point of discussion, and it allowed me to once again poke fun of the practices of my fellow podcasters. So, I don't know how many of you are old enough to remember this song, even though I can't really say that too seriously because the song is even a little bit old for Scott and myself.
It's not old.
Well, it's the nostalgia that it is intended to evoke is definitely for a generation slightly older than us.
Oh, yeah, that's for sure. But I've heard the song. Everyone's heard the song. Even if you don't know who sings the song, you know the song.
Yeah, but I would wager that a lot of our listeners don't.
I could imagine that the punk kids don't know, but everyone else knows.
Yeah, mostly I brought that up because, one, all the people who are older than us are going, God damn it, you punk kids.
And it going, wow, we're old.
Yeah. Because that's the worst thing when someone younger than you is complaining about how old they are.
Yeah.
But I digress. So, you've all heard the song, I hope. We didn't start the fire. We didn't start the fire. I'm not going to sing like Dave and Joel always try to do. But I'm not going to talk about my feelings on that song. But very briefly, I'm generally of the mind that the song is kind of a cheesy cop-out. It's one of those ideas of, hey, I'm just going to load this song up with nostalgia, even though it's actually really, really repetitive and not that insightful or meaningful or anything.
Well, lyrically, I would have to agree with you. Musically, it's an average pop song.
It's very, I would almost say that song was trite and manipulative.
Kind of.
But anyway, the point is that regardless of how you feel about the song became a blockbuster success because people who heard the song and remembered all the things. Just it kind of brings them back to older times in their life and all the things they've lived through.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there's a video circulating to internet that is attempting to do the same thing for the internet. It is entitled Internet People. I'm sure you've all seen it already. I know a lot of you in the forum said, wow, that was amazing. Wow, I really felt it. Wow, how cool was that? And I'm going to say you should see it, but I'm going to take the contrary position and say that it was pretty piss poor, and I was really disappointed with it.
I think it was kind of meh. I mean, musically, it was worse than We Didn't Start the Fire. Lyrically, slightly worse.
And the animation, what you actually see in the video was poorly done and really not that clever. It was one of those overly literal, not interesting, why even bother with a video things.
It's sort of one of those things where it's like, I can't actually make something creative and popular, so I'm just going to aggregate creative and popular things and hopefully get like a second run on it.
Yeah, it's one of those, obviously the guy who did this, or girl, I didn't look at who did it, I don't really care, had the great idea, hey, why don't I make one of those nostalgia songs about the internet, and that'll make me famous. And it kind of worked because the thing's super known and popular, but you really, A for idea, D for implementation.
Yeah, it really didn't. I mean, I watched it, and I was just kind of like, yeah, that's what that is.
Well, the worst thing is, it didn't even cover the real span of that sort of thing on the internet. It was way too recent and covered things that were so new or unnoteworthy that I hadn't heard a lot of them, to be honest.
Yeah, it pretty much only covered things like since the existence of Dig. These people, whoever made it wasn't really,
There were very few things in there that weren't super recent.
Yeah, the only old thing in there was like All Your Bass. And it's like, did you forget about like the pusher robot and the shover robot? Did you forget about like Zumblecom? Did you?
Yeah, and even if you don't show it, you gotta say or somehow bring up Goatsy because
They did. They said goatsy. Like the word appeared.
They did? I didn't even notice that.
Yeah, but they didn't mention the other ones though.
Ah.
Yeah.
Or it's just, I don't know. I'm really disappointed with that video, and it surprises me that so many people like it so much because I don't know if maybe my attention span is a few minutes longer than everyone else's, but a lot of that stuff just wasn't that noteworthy or nostalgia worthy.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, someone coming up and saying, "Hey, Rim,
Huh?
what's the
The what?
the Numa Numa guy?"
Oh, yeah, the Numa Numa guy.
That's not going to entertain me. Just someone saying, "Hey, remember this?" So saying, "Hey, remember this" about everything, not any better.
At least it had Washington in it.
Yeah, it did. It did have Washington, but
Yeah, the thing is, Washington, the real Washington, despite being of similar graphic quality, was actually so much
the
better.
thing is, I think for most of the stuff that was live action, right? They actually drew a Numa Numa guy who looked like King Hippo.
Yep.
But like they didn't draw Washington. They just copied and pasted Washington because he was already animated. You know, it was kind of eh.
Yeah, someone out there do something better. I don't have the time or the inclination right now.
No, nor do I care.
Plus, you really got to hit the more serious things. Make it actually nostalgia-worthy. Make it one of those, oh, man, the internet.
Yeah, you can't just say this thing and show a picture, a drawing of it. You have to like bring it back. Like you got to be like, and like don't just say like show like the Numa Numa guy going like Maya he, Maya.
Yeah, like cut to that as a musical bridge or
Yeah.
something. Or even in
just sort of merge them together in a new and interesting way where the combination of the parts actually creates a new whole rather than just referring to the originals.
I mean, even We Didn't Start the Fire musically, it kept like the music would build up and build down and come to climaxes when certain words were being said. It was done well, and the music in this was just really
Bleh.
completely.
Are we done talking about how sucky this is?
I'm done making fun of this.
So, some company, it's a UK defense firm called Kinetic with Q's instead of K's. And they made a vehicle, an unmanned flying vehicle that runs on the solar power.
Ooh.
And people have made these before, but this one, they say, flew for 54 hours on its own. That's like the record. But they didn't get the record because the people who are allowed to, decide if it was the record breaker or not did not watch because it was secret.
Huh.
But now they say they're going to do another one for like 33 hours that they'll be allowed to watch, I guess, so they can get the record. And they're like, yeah, we can do this forever. Yeah, we're going to,
to be honest, the whole idea of world records, I just don't care about anymore.
I don't
at this
care
point.
either. But what I do care about is unmanned flying things that can fly really high up and really far for a really long time.
Sadly, you know who else probably cares about that a lot?
Spies.
The military.
Yes. So while I could use one to say, load up Google Maps, I have a feeling that it's not going to directly benefit me for a long time, but it could. And it's cool to look at. It looks like a paper airplane, but made out of solar cells.
So we haven't done this in a while, but there's been a lot of tech news, so I think it's finally about time to cop out and do a Tech News Roundup.
It helps. It's a perfect day to cop out, and the news timing is perfect, and just everything sort of came together for us to beat Twit at its own game.
Twit. Anyway.
So obviously, the biggest news, did we discuss this on the show yet?
I don't believe so.
All the new Apple action, all right? So first, you've got the iPhone going down in price from, I think, $600 to $400, right? And
I
then
particularly like how there's that rebate, whatever.
after it was 2 months of the iPhone at $600, and now it's $400. Then, because Steve Jobs said, all right, anyone who bought the iPhone for $600 gets $100 in store credit. So you can
that
buy,
is brilliant.
because they just give them some accessories and shit for their iPhone.
Not even that. You know that those people are going to spend more than $100 in the Apple Store.
Oh, yeah. You go to the Apple Store with $100 in credit. Well, what are you going to buy? You could buy some accessories, but like you buy one accessory is like $60 or $40, and then another one, and then there's something left. Or maybe you'll buy like that $80 keyboard. Then what are you going to do with your $20? So you're going to buy some, with $100 in the Apple Store or on the Apple website, it's pretty much impossible to spend all of it without going over in some way.
I just wonder if this specific move wasn't pre-planned from the start. Charge X, reduce price X time later, and then have a goodwill kind of, hey, we care about our customers so much.
I
check this
don't
out.
think that it was planned from the start because he sort of messed up the marketing of it, and that if the rebate was planned, he would have mentioned it when he announced the iPhone. All right. And what's happened now is because he didn't mention, or I guess he came up with the rebate, later, like the next day or after his, little, presentation, is that all the news stories are concentrating on, oh man, iPhone price drop. They're totally giving the finger to all the early adopters. And they didn't concentrate on all of Apple's new iPods and things. And that didn't work out too well for Apple. They should have, if they had planned it in advance, they would have been smart enough to mention the rebate during the presentation, which would have helped them out a lot. So, about those new iPods. So what they do? I think they shuffle. Does it have new colors? Maybe, I'm not sure.
I didn't even look.
It doesn't matter. The Nano is now shorter and fatter, but much thinner. I guess it's stupidly thin, but it can now do videos and everything.
I am excited, but at the same time, I'd have to buy a new mount for my car.
Yeah, the iPod Classic is sort of the same as the normal iPod has always been, except it's now, I think you can get it with like 160 gigs or something ludicrous like that. But I heard a rumor that it was sort of laggy, like using it.
Huh.
And the interfaces on the Nano and the Classic are sort of improved to be more iPhone-ish with like the albums that go swoosh and everything. But it's not a touchscreen. It's the same disc we're used to,
That's fine. For a regular iPod, I don't think I'd want the touchscreen. It would just get in my way and distract me.
And then they've got the iPod Touch, which was I almost cared about it.
So did we ever get an answer?
No, actually. I'm pretty sure the answer is no, but there's no I have not seen any actual full-on confirmation. But basically, the iPod Touch is an iPhone without the phone, and it's like $300. I think you can get it at 8 or 16 gigs or something like that, right, with Flash. And the news stories I keep seeing about it are, oh man, they took out the add contact button, because, to sort of, they basically took things out of it, all right, feature-wise, out of the software to differentiate it from the iPhone itself. So, like, the device, the hardware that consists in the iPhone, the iPod Touch, is capable of ludicrous things. It could do amazing things, but it doesn't because Apple has decided to just, put the software in there so it only does certain things, mostly what an iPod does plus a little bit more.
See, the one product that I've said this before, I was waiting for, and I would pay a lot of money for, some sort of portable MP3 player with Wi-Fi.
Yeah, the iPod Touch has Wi-Fi.
That I could just run iTunes on and just get my podcast from wherever.
Yep. And
if the iPod Touch had that, I'd pay almost $1,000 for it, possibly.
Yeah. But it does, as far as we know, it doesn't have that. What it does have is you can go on the iTunes store through this iTunes Wi-Fi interface they give you, which is also going to be available on the iPhone. And you can buy songs, like you can search for an artist and then it'll show you their albums. You could touch the album with your finger and download the album. But so far, there is no indication that it can get podcasts. The only device I know of that is Wi-Fi that can get podcasts is the PSP, which I would buy for that feature if it wasn't so goddamn big. It's huge. Even the new thin one is still as wide. It's got this gigantic screen. I don't need that screen to freaking listen to stuff. All right? I don't need this UMD drive on there. It's too much. It doesn't fulfill the purpose.
See, I think what Apple's going for here is people are out on the go, and they're in a hotspot or whatever, and suddenly they want to hear a song. Like, they just start thinking about a song. Now they can get the impulse buy market out there and not just at home.
Yep, and also what it does is when you get back home, if you sync with your iTunes, it will take any songs you bought on your iPod Touch or your iPhone and put them in your iTunes.
I wouldn't be surprised if there was some sort of dual marketing thing where in major urban areas they start doing thing. I can think of a lot of ways they could do
Well, they
this.
have a thing in Starbucks where you can buy the song that's currently playing in the Starbucks.
Yeah, I expect a lot more things like that. And if I were them, I'd actually go around to all sorts of businesses and pay them to play certain songs that I think would be, impulse buys for the target demographic of said stores.
Maybe. But just to, reiterate again. There's one other small thing which I'll get to, but the the not supporting podcasting as much as it could be supported. We just talked about how podcasts aren't so big, and they could be. The problem is the people who make the technology that could bring podcasting into the fold are not making that technology. The Zune could sync up and download podcasts. It has all the hardware to do that, but it doesn't, just because no one made the software for it. The iPod Touch could do it, but it doesn't. A Trio could do it. It doesn't. Any portable device with Wi-Fi could have a podcatcher that was all slick and could just synchronize podcasts wherever you are, so when new episodes come out, there they appear. Could even notify you that new episodes are out, and you could listen to them on the device and delete them from the device and not have any synchronizing or anything. But no one makes such a device.
Now, one could say, this is not my opinion, but this is the kind of thing that you would see some guy on Slashdot write a big paragraph about. Mm-hmm. One could argue that perhaps the reason this is the way everything is simply that the current content producers are, as always, threatened by any sort of media or any sort of distribution method they can't control, especially when said distribution method is full of free stuff.
Yep.
Made by people who aren't trying to make money.
Yeah,
and
it could be.
One could say, if one were a conspiracy theorist, that perhaps the people who have some sort of influence over Microsoft and Apple, people like EMI or other content distributors or content owners, might be really downplaying or keeping down, not podcasting, but just any sort of open media.
Or you could also say that, hey, the iPod Touch, right? Let's say it did have a podcatcher, right? It had let you synchronize your podcast on the device just like I want. How many sales would that really get them above and beyond? Sure, it would get my sale, Rim's sale.
Even if it got every person in the world who listens to podcasts right now immediately went out and bought one, that's a drop in the bucket of how many people are going to buy an iPod Touch.
Yeah, it's really not enough for them to take that into account when making a business decision.
Yep. Remember, Apple, much like Nintendo, above all else, you can't forget, no matter how much you like a company, that they just want your money. And they both do the same kind of thing of release just enough to get the majority of people.
Yeah, why should they spend their time and money developing more software for a device if if they spend $20,000 paying a guy to work on software for half a year, right? He's a $40,000 a year employee to make one more application for the iPod Touch, and then how many iPod Touches they have to sell to make up for that guy's salary?
Yep, I mean, iPods don't sell because of podcasting; they sell because of iPods.
Yep.
Right. So we'll get away from that, unless you have anything else pertinent to say.
No, the only other thing is it's sort of a chicken and egg in a way, where if they started pushing the podcasting onto the iPhones and onto the Zunes and things, and it actually caught on, then by making podcast device, it's like they could help create the market to make more money.
But at the same time,
rather than saying there is no market.
The moment the market actually exists and podcasting or syndicated anything like that starts to really take off, then everyone else like Microsoft will just jump right in.
Yep, and the Sansa will even have Wi-Fi and let us get podcasts on it and everything. So
yeah.
And you can now turn any song you buy in the iTunes Music Store into a ringtone.
Do you see that
for $1?
That's brilliant marketing, and they're going to make so much money off that. But you see, someone hacked it already.
Well, the thing is, what happened is someone realized, hey, if I just rename this, M4A file or AAC file to be like M, like R something, right? Then iTunes will think it's a ringtone and it'll just work. And I won't have to pay $1. But then the iTunes upgrade came through, because every time they bring out new iPods, they upgrade iTunes to work with the new iPods. And that trick didn't work anymore. So I guess they thought of that.
Yeah, well, what I'll say very simply is that while from a money-making perspective, it's brilliant to sell people their own songs again, just to be,
well, they're not selling you the song again, as they're saying it's you add $1 to the.
Yeah, so you have to buy the song again for $1 in ringtone form, effectively.
Yep.
That's
basically paying $1 to rename a file.
The fact that the phone doesn't let you just make any file you want a ringtone is kind of shit.
It is.
That's just a really.
There is no technological reason that it couldn't just do that. For it doesn't cost Apple any resources whatsoever.
Well, what it does
to
cost
allow
them
you.
is it costs them the opportunity cost of the millions of people who are going to pay $1 to get a ringtone.
That's what it does do.
So
yes.
I guess it's smart of Apple to do that to make money.
And
but
also,
at the same time, it's
technically-
really shitty of Apple to do that.
Technically, the record companies, with the way the royalty works, is they
Yeah.
will charge again when a song is used as a ringtone.
Because it gets played in public and all sorts of crap.
Yeah,
and it's a
all,
different
it's all
format.
bullshit. Yeah.
But we're not going to get into that.
It's like you buy a song and now I can't use that recording of the song that I licensed in any way I want. I can only use it in certain ways, and fuck it.
Right. So in actual science news, news being in quotation marks here, Russia has claimed that they've discovered a magical, mythical mineral in the Arctic somewhere that just somehow removes radiation from water-based solutions.
All right.
Let's not even, because I don't want to
Okay,
spend
no,
much
wait,
time.
wait.
Let's
No.
not even.
What do they mean remove? Where does it go?
Scott, let's not even get into the scientific.
Oh, come on.
I would just like to point out that stories like this come out of Russia a lot lately. And they're almost always bullshit. There was the one a while ago about they brought those dogs back to life and it was totally fake and there was no actual
I
source
think that was
for it.
Australian.
Yeah, but that Australian article linked to a Russian study.
Oh, did it?
Quotes.
I'm not sure.
There's a bunch of crap like that, and it seems like a lot of this is going hand in hand with Russia's kind of attempting to remilitarize, even though that's basically just a joke. And
Yeah.
Russia's trying to make itself look like it's very important, and this, I think, is just a straight up lie on the behalf of Russia.
Oh,
to
it's
try
definitely
to...
a lie. I mean, where do they say the radiation goes? Does it
No,
get-
but I don't think this is just, we found
Oh, you're not
something,
answering my question.
because I don't want to get into that.
But it's Sci-Tech Day. I don't want to talk about politics and foreign stuff. I want to talk about the science and the tech.
I think the science here is that in political science,
Ugh.
the Russian government has, I think that this is a straight up hoax lie, and it's not even an accident or anything. It's just they are trying to convince the world that they are somehow still irrelevant.
Yeah, but
Now, granted,
there's no
if
way.
such a thing were true, that would revolutionize the world. That would be one of the most amazing advances possible, because then we would have a solution to the problem of nuclear waste. And
Yeah, we
have
just take this
electricity and-
mineral and, make a nuclear reactor out of it, and then, holy crap.
That's all I have to say about that. It's
Yeah,
to
but-
have such the audacity to lie openly about something like that. I 100% doubt that this is true.
I mean, think about it. If something absorbs or gets rid of radiation, well, it has to go somewhere. Does it become heat? If that's the case, it'll frickin' start crazy fires, right? Where else could it go? It could turn into the mineral itself, right? So
I think it
guess the
turns-
mineral grows as it's exposed to
I
radiation.
think it turns into communism.
Yeah, as the mineral is exposed to radiation, it starts to grow as
And
it
turn
adds,
red,
and
and then
adds more
eventually
matter to it.
turn
Then
into,
what
a
then
Superman.
If something's growing like that, it's going to become radioactive itself eventually. But it just doesn't work. It makes no sense.
Like I said, I wasn't going to get into it, but
Yeah.
I somewhat doubt the veracity of the claims of these Russian scientists.
All right, so there's a bunch of AMD news here.
Yeah,
All right,
there's
so
two big things.
I want to start. Well, there's like two or three, but I'm going to start out. AMD has come out with these quad-core Opterons, right? And they're supposedly not so expensive, and they're supposedly wicked fast. And for a while I thought, AMD's going down. They got their, the Intel's got the the Core 2 Duos, and AMD isn't keeping up. And even though the AMD stuff is kind of cheap, it's not really fast enough or reliable enough. But now they've got this Opteron, let's see what it is. The Opteron 2350, which is 2 gigahertz quad core for $389. $389. And it's supposedly wicked fast. I don't know how it heats up it's well, let's see. Power efficiency, I guess, is kind of average, but that's nothing to sneer at right there.
Yeah, I mean, granted, a quad core has almost no desktop uses.
That's true.
But for the server market, that is, like Scott said, nothing to sneeze at, because the server market is actually still in flux, because desktop whatever, the high-end chip market, AMD and Intel still both have very good offerings.
But at the same time, if they're whipping out, these quad cores and the $300, $400 for the server market, right? The desktop ones, man, I think it's getting really tight, basically.
Yeah.
And it's
thing
tough
is,
to call.
I don't think they can they can't make faster dual cores. They're basically just making quad cores at the speed they can make them, which is great for the server market.
But supposedly they're going to have like 4 gigahertz ones.
Yeah, but don't forget, right around then is when Intel's Penrins are going to start coming out.
Isn't the Penryn what we have now?
No, well, the thing where Intel claimed that the next...
I don't know, the name... I hate it when people use those names.
I'm pretty sure
cores.
Penryn, Scott, is the next gen.
I have no idea.
That was when
ones.
it's the current Core 2 Duo technology and Core 2 Quad, just twice as fast.
Well, who knows? I'm not going to bother to look up all those names right now, but yeah, AMD. Whoa, watch out. The CPU race is getting tight. I think this is not the time to buy a computer, and you should probably wait until like there's a period of time, perhaps after the holiday season or during it, when it's like,
Yeah, I mean, I bought one because I had to, and even then, I bought my computer during a plateau. It was a short plateau, but there was a plateau right when I bought my computer.
Yep, there was this plateau.
And I knew that there was a steep increase coming. I figured by October, late November, there was going to be a gigantic change in computing technology again. I just wasn't willing to wait that much longer.
In addition to that, AMD, all right, you might know from many people yelling, is that AMD's video drivers, they kind of suck. NVIDIA's video card drivers are kind of awesome. Intel's are okay.
There's a lot of reasons for that. We're not getting into it.
NVIDIA's technology is closed source. It's all secret. Intel's is not so open source, but they have their specifications online, so it's pretty easy for the open source developers to make Intel video card drivers. And for the most part, they work really well without any sort of user interaction, right? ATI has had the problem where they were also closed source like NVIDIA, but the driver they made for Linux that was closed source sucked. So pretty much all Linux people were just like, all right, we're pretty much only buying NVIDIA and Intel cards. You know, NVIDIA when you need 3D, Intel when you don't. Screw ATI. And anyone with ATI and Linux was just suffering and complaining. Well,
yeah, you can listen to some old episodes where we had trouble.
Against everyone's predictions and anyone's wildest dreams, AMD has come out and said, AMD/ATI, which is the same company now, remember. They came out and they said, well, we're going to give you the specifications, but you're going to have to sign an NDA. Now, and then they said, wait, actually, no, forget about the NDA. We're just going to put out enough specifications so people will just be able to make open source video drivers for the ATI cards. And it's suddenly ATI, AMD, in like an hour, in like a second, has gone from being you're the enemy of the Linux world to we love you, fuck NVIDIA, haha.
Now, part of the reason for that, I mean, even NVIDIA's solution, while the drivers were closed source, at least NVIDIA worked relatively well with, open source stuff, and they did as well as you could expect them to do.
And they did have NVIDIA people. They do have NVIDIA employees working on the kernel and other open source stuff to make sure that their driver works and
the
stuff
issue
like
was that right about now, while generally I've always thought that the NVIDIA side of technology was generally more robust, but ATI, very recently, their high-end cards are a little faster than NVIDIA's high-end cards.
Well, the cards it's always been close, the high-end cards versus the high-end cards, and the price performance has gone back between, unlike AMD Intel, where Intel always sort of was down on the price performance ratio, even if they were up on the performance. ATI and NVIDIA have always been pretty close on the price performance ratios, and the high-end cards from both companies have always been stupidly overpriced and no reason to buy them. But I guess just at this moment in time, I think ATI is a little up with their HD something whatever cards, and they also, like the latest ATI closed source drivers, right, are suddenly catching up to the performance of the NVIDIA drivers in Linux. Like, they're not quite there, but they're actually not as bad as they were. They used to be useless. Now they're kind of... And they're open sourcing... Well, they're not open sourcing, but they're opening the spec for open source people to look at to be able to make better open source drivers.
Now, I predict that NVIDIA, within 6 months, is going to do something similar.
They're going to have to do something, because if an open source driver for ATI cards comes out,
You know how many Linux nerds are going to jump on that and make it better as fast as they can?
Yeah, and there's already some people who are working on this Nouveau project, which is a project to make an NVIDIA driver that is completely open source.
Now, one step further, if I was NVIDIA, I would tap those people.
Yes, but what's happened is NVIDIA is basically not going to help or hinder them in any way.
I think they're going to change their tune as time goes on.
if they don't change their tune, I do foresee that, basically, as soon as a driver comes out that's open source for ATI cards that works and is awesome, which I imagine will take 6 to 12 months before it's at a point where people are using it, and when it's included in an Ubuntu release is the moment, basically.
Now, this whole market shift, I mean, I don't want to go into much more detail because we could talk about this forever. I think that whatever we see happen in the next 6 months to a year because of all this is going to be one of the first really good indicators of just how important Linux is on the desktop scene, because if suddenly ATI's sales start going up at a noticeable rate, then there's no way they can claim anything other than that's because Linux people stopped buying NVIDIA.
Yeah, because basically the rate of buying video cards is sort of unchanging, and they make their profits on all the people who keep buying the hottest new video card no matter what constantly, because they're crazy, stupid gamers who don't know any better.
So now we're going to find out how many of those people dual boot.
Yeah, and also to make most of their money in, the direct sales. Like, if Dell decides to put NVIDIA cards in the chips in their computers, that's where NVIDIA makes its big money. If I guess Gateway doesn't exist. If Toshiba decides, or HP, to put ATI cards in a line of PCs, that's where ATI makes all their money. So any difference, that this will cause is going to be in the gamer market and the nerd market. So we're going to figure out just how much of the nerd market is Linux people by looking at the difference in how ATI's sales increase, because they will increase if NVIDIA doesn't do anything. I guarantee it, that over the next 2 years, ATI will see sales go up and NVIDIA will see sales go down if the open source ATI driver comes out and is working.
Yep, but I mean, there's a chance that it'll just be a blip and no one will notice, in which case we know that no one actually cares about Linux.
In which case, then why doesn't NVIDIA open source? Because it's not going to hurt them if its sales aren't going to change. That's the thing I don't understand.
I never understood why. I mean, what could the driver have in it that would be such a trade secret?
It is written really well, and I imagine there are some algorithms or techniques.
Actually,
in there
you know what? Now that I think
may be
about
patented.
it, just now, my broad guess, not about technology, but just look at the history. For the longest time, ATI's drivers for their own cards, even when the cards were technologically superior, were kind of crappy, and there were a lot of times where the driver alone was hindering the performance of an ATI card.
Yep.
Meanwhile, NVIDIA's always had really good drivers. I think NVIDIA, the reason they stayed back from this for so long was just that they didn't want ATI to pick up any tricks.
Yep. Oh, well. I think what they would be really smart to do, right, is if they open source their driver on Windows, too, because, think about how much money NVIDIA spends on making their driver and how much ATI spends on making their driver. These people out there will make your driver for you. Just open source it, and these random people will keep maintaining it. And they already don't give any warranty for their driver, right? All they need to do is have a couple guys to just keep putting the spec out for the new chips so that the new features on the new chips will be put into the driver on time. Maybe hire a guy to make sure that the driver keeps pace with the chip development features and such. But other than that, why bother paying developers to maintain these drivers when people out there will do it for free and essentially make the same product? They could save a lot of money doing that. Oh, well.
Yeah, but regardless, this is good news, and I really want to see what comes of it in the next 6 months.
Yeah, I might buy it. Plus, I might pay an ATI.
I just bought a high-end. I'm going to hold out.
I didn't.
You didn't?
I didn't. Actually, I did. I just bought an NVIDIA card, but in 2 or 3 years, about when this thing will be set and done, is the next time I'll make a move, and, who knows?
So in somewhat less good news, in fact, possibly bad news from Slashdot here, as of September 1st, the free XML TV guide service at Zap2It Labs has shut its doors due to misuse issues and all other stuff. I'm not going to read the whole thing.
Let me explain this to people so they understand what the story is. Let's say you use Myth TV. Myth TV is basically...
Free TiVo.
Yes.
Leave it at that.
Instead of getting a TiVo, you get a computer, you install Linux on it, you install Myth TV on that, and then now you have a computer that is a TiVo, and you don't have to pay TiVo a monthly fee.
Well, not only that, it's better than TiVo because you can skip ads however you want. You're totally unrestricted, whatever you do.
You're basically using a PC instead of a TiVo. You own it. It only costs you the price of a PC because the software is free, and there's no monthly fee and no nothing. However,
and Myth TV is pretty easy to set up, unless it doesn't work on your hardware, in which case just give up.
yeah, if you buy a computer knowing you're going to do Myth TV with it, it is not hard. Now, the only thing missing from the Myth TV that the TiVo has is you need the TV listings, right? Let's say I want to record Seinfeld, right? Every episode of Seinfeld. Well, on a TiVo, I just go and I click on Seinfeld because it looks like a TV guide on the TV screen. I click on Seinfeld and I say, record all the Seinfelds. And it knows, not to record 2 of the same episode of Seinfeld if it gets a rerun on the same day at like 2 different times. Or it knows, when Seinfeld is on. It knows Seinfeld is on this channel at this time and this channel at this time and such and such and such.
I can just scroll through the directory and say, I want to record that show and that show and that show and that show.
I don't need to know the times of the shows beforehand. I don't need to have like a paper TV guide in front of me. I don't need to type in like, channel 6 at 7, because that would be, what's the point then, right?
But the real problem is most of the services that give you this information are not free.
Yet there is if you set up a Myth TV box, the only thing hindering you is that how does this computer that you just set up know when shows are on? Are you going to type your TV guide into it? I don't think so. It needs to connect to some server somewhere that has the TV listings and has to get the TV listings from that server, and some company has to put the TV listings into that server, and it has to know where you live. It has to know what channels you get. It has to account for like satellite channels. It has to account for everything. Different time zones. It's crazy. It's a lot of data, and it's hard to manage. And until now, there was only one place you could get that information for free, and that was Zap2It. And they would give you this information in XML form for free if you signed up and whatever. And now they're gone. So what do? You're going to type in 7
Shoot the
o'clock
hostage
on channel 3? It's really bad. And think about it, though. All the information you can think of, right, is online. The weather, the time, all the TV listings are not really online. Are the TV listings online? I've never seen them. They're hard to find.
When was the last time you looked for a TV listing?
I'm going to look right now, but I remember from the times when I did try to look for TV listings, very hard to find online.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think there's a bunch of issues here because a lot of the people on Slashdot are basically railing against this as, that's bullshit. How dare those people giving me a free service decide to not bother giving me the free service anymore? How dare they indeed? Mm-hmm. And there's this happens with other projects too, where just because people have been providing a service for free for a long time or for a short time, for any amount of time, and for whatever reason they stop, a lot of people on the internet have this kind of sense of entitlement that it's mine. They can't stop. They got to keep giving this to me. And a lot of people are really mad about this, but if someone's giving you something for free, I really can't see any valid way to complain if they suddenly stop.
All right, TVGuide.com has TV listings, but they're kind of They're not really all too useful. And you have to go through like 4 pages to get to them.
See, the trick isn't getting the listings, because that information is out there. The trick is getting the listings, converting it into a form that Myth TV can then understand.
Yep.
And companies like TiVo jealously guard their listings because...
Well, because they have to pay someone to provide them with a listing.
Well, not only that, but that's one of the prime benefits you get for buying a TiVo, is that all just works and you don't have to worry about it.
Yep. And I mean, your cable company doesn't even want you to have the listings, because they show them on a channel that they want you to watch, because that channel has ads.
Yeah, luckily
they don't want you to have TV Guide, because then you're not going to go to the channel that has the ads and the listings on it. So yeah, I don't know. Do you think another company is going to just show up with XML TV listings, or
I don't know. I think a lot of people are going to start using various hackish scrapers that'll go to websites, scrape the information, turn it to XML.
I just went to tvguide.com and it looks like not a trivial thing to scrape.
Oh no, I was looking through some of the scrapers out there and they're just Perl monstrosities.
Yeah.
And apparently they break often because people notice the scraping and fix it.
Yeah. It's just, it's bad news
Honestly,
for Myth TV users. However, even if I had a Myth TV, I wouldn't be using it as a DVR because I don't watch TV.
Well, here's the thing. The core truth is simply that this information does not really exist out there in a useful form for these people. And it's not trivial to put the information in this useful form. So the capitalist solution is to pay someone to put this information into the form for you, or to do it yourself and pay for it with your own time. And a lot of people aren't willing to do any of those.
I wonder how much the places that are non-free, right? There must be non-free places to get this information.
I didn't look,
format,
but
right?
I'm sure there are.
I'm sure there are, because they're like, oh, the last non-free one is gone, right? And I remember when I researched Myth TV a year or so ago that there were non-free alternatives. I do wonder how much they charge, because
$15 for 3 months, and they're hoping to change it to $20 a year.
Is that what it says?
For one run by the Myth TV devs, www.schedulesdirect.org.
Oh, so that's not so bad. $20 a year. I was just about to say that if they charged outrageous prices, that I would think about starting up a competitor to charge a non-outrageous price. But $15 for 3 months, $20 a year, those are both reasonable prices,
You know what?
I think.
For that service, I'd be willing to pay that.
Yeah, if I was a TV watcher with a Myth TV, $20 a year, $15 for 3 months, you're still owning the price of a TiVo, which is what, like $20 a month at least, probably more, plus the cost of a TiVo.
Yeah, just the fact that a lot of people are complaining so loudly about the free thing going away when there is a perfectly reasonable paid one out there. It's kind of like I can see people's complaints when a CD costs, $20 and a crap CD in the discount bin costs $7.
But it's like Skype was giving out the free phone calls, for a while, and it's over now. But you don't see anyone complaining because it was reasonable.
But imagine if a CD was $1.50 and a song in iTunes was 5 cents. At that point, I don't care how, righteous and indignant you are. When you start complaining and pirating stuff anyway...
I would buy so much goddamn... If it was no DRM, I would buy so much goddamn music.
But people would still complain because they can't get it free anymore, and then they'd
people who would complain would be people who didn't have jobs yet, the college kids and the high school kids, because they don't even have the nickel or the $1.50. And if I was still a college or high school kid, I would still be getting the music for free, even if it was a nickel a song.
The reason for that is simply that we went to RIT, which had access to Internet too, and if any of you have never been on Internet 2, it is nothing but MP3s and software.
It's stupidly fast. You can download like a gigabyte in a minute.
And
literally.
The RIAA just can't get in there. So.
No, they can't. But, if it was $1.50 an album or 50 or like 5 cents a song, and I now I'm a person who has a job that pays money, and I don't have a lot of time, and I have so many MP3s I just don't listen to because they haven't been sorted. And it's such a pain. I don't download music just because it's such a pain.
I'd probably rebuy almost my entire collection.
I probably would, just for the convenience of having it be sorted and correctly labeled and all that jazz. I would go and buy probably $500 worth of music.
But see, that proves the point that the information itself, the MP3 files, even though you can go out and get it free, not that useful. But people like us, and I think a lot of people out there, are willing to pay to get the information in a usable form. The process of making the information usable is still marketable, even if the information itself can be stolen.
Because as free as stealing MP3s is, it's still inconvenient. Even in the Napster days, the golden age when Napster was full on, it was still inconvenient compared to iTunes, which is more convenient. There is no doubt. And I'm willing to pay for convenience. I'm just only willing to pay about 10 cents, 5 cents. So you can make money because you have the advantage of convenience on top of the product itself. You just have to make the price so low that, it makes up for the inconvenience of downloading for free.
All right, so I got another one here.
All right.
Rim is really hungry and wants some Chinese food. And
I got some more real ones.
What?
They're real quick.
All right, let's just do a bam, 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 because I really want to eat.
Okay, first bam. NTP pool reaches 1,000 servers, needs more.
All right, NTP is great. I have words about implementing NTP, but that's beside the point.
Yep. The NTP pool is basically a bunch of people who set up their computers to keep track of time so that other people can synchronize their computers to have the correct time. And I encourage people who have spare computers to have a computer join the NTP pool so that more computers on the internet can have correct time for free.
In fact, I'm thinking of when I build my new server in the house, we're going to have an external-facing server with, SFTP and all that business so our idiot friends can send us files. I'm really thinking I'll just make it an NTP pool. Doesn't hurt me.
Yeah. There's some guy who went missing. And
Steve Fawcett.
Yeah. Do you know about him? I don't know about him. I just know he's missing.
Here's what I know about him. He is missing, and the internet cares.
Yes. they're using the interesting thing is, I mean, I guess it's sad that he's missing, even though I don't know anything about
But
it.
at the same time, while that's said, this illustrates a point, because this happened before with the other guy who went missing, that geeks on the internet, even if they don't know a geek, they'll use technology if they can to try and help each other.
Yeah, it's like, imagine if, there was just another one of those, sensationalized missing little girl cases, right? They would not be using Amazon's Mechanical Turk to find her, because it's just, it's just the way the geek community is right now, is it's, the geeks are helping each other out. People who have a presence on the internet are getting helped by the internet. When you give to the internet, it sort of gives back to you. You give to an internet community, that community gives back. So they're using Amazon's Mechanical Turk to help find this guy, and I guess it's sort of helping, maybe. If it actually finds the guy, that'll be amazing.
Well, what they're doing is they're looking at small images from satellite photos taken recently, and people just look at one and see if they see the wreckage of a plane. Hopefully they can narrow down where he is out there.
Yep, and if someone says, yes, I think I see wreckage on this one, and no, I don't see any on this one, then the professionals look at the ones that people mark as yes, and if they see something, then they send a crew out there.
So there have been a bunch of stories about, the old Amazon one-click shopping patent and the BS around that. There's been a bunch of articles lately pointing out that the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office is really starting to shape up when it comes to technology issues, and one of the things they're looking at more and more closely is the possible bullshittedness of this patent.
It's the most bullshitted patent ever, and it's really one of the only...
I submit that the patent that may or may not go through
I'm just
on
saying,
my behalf for IBM
I'm just saying is that this is a pretty nefarious and infamous patent, and it's one of the only evil things, really, there is about Amazon, who is otherwise pretty nice in terms of internet companies. And if it gets turned over, then that marks like a new age for patent goodness instead of patent evil.
Yep, and also, there's an article here... columnist, it's on Slashdot, I'm not going to bother with who wrote it, but it talks about online relationships and how people shouldn't just dismiss them as not being real because they're online. And all I want to say is I think that's pretty obvious, because regardless of if people see each other in person or whatever, an emotional relationship can happen in just about any format, and if you doubt that, just go on LiveJournal for like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of cases coming up where, people are married or dating, and then someone has an emotional attachment with someone online, and maybe their significant other dismisses this as not being real, and that's only going to lead to problems down the line.
Yeah, I know of like 2 or 3 stories of, 2 people married with kids. One of the people who's married meets someone on the internet, runs away. And that's the end.
Or don't even run away, but,
Disappears.
if they're really into it, they get married in World of Warcraft, and then that relationship becomes more important than the quote-unquote real relationship.
That too.
And if you care more about a person that you know online than someone you're living with, then who could say that one relationship is somehow more valid, even though the other one is more emotional?
I cannot say they're more or less valid, but I can say that an online relationship does have problems with it that real world relationships do not. For example, there was a story recently, like some guy who was like,
oh, it was actually someone, he met the person.
Yeah,
and then
it's like
out.
you don't really know. It's like you gotta. That's why I kind of like, community relationships on the internet. You got like a forum, and then you actually meet the people in real life at some point, and it's like, aha.
Well, at the same time, I mean, we don't have to say just a romantic relationship.
No, it could be, yeah.
You can have an emotional relationship with someone online. I mean, back in the early days of...
But the same problems can happen where, you think you know about the person, but really you only know... You're having this emotional relationship with the online persona that is not necessarily the true person, and there could be deception that does not really exist so much in longer-term, real-world relationships, because it's hard for people to put on such a fake persona unless they're like a con artist, if you're actually sitting there next to them.
True. I guess the point I want to make is just that a lot of people dismiss the social interaction online as not being real and not being worth worrying about, and a lot of times that's not the case.
It's real. It just has a potential for deception. Do you want to do one more? The IBM Open Office?
Oh yeah, we should talk about that. I think that'll be the last one.
All right, so IBM has been supporting the open document format, which I'm not going to talk about that. No, that's a whole show. But it's basically yay for not Microsoft.
Yeah, and there's a whole other issue about how IBM has been going... I mean, when I worked there, this was a really big trend, and I actually was a big part of that, and we got rid of a lot of Windows PCs, but pushing toward Linux and open source and internally just not being dependent upon other people's crap.
Yep. So they're actually, what they've decided now is they're going to put some developers to start working on OpenOffice. So IBM people are going to work on OpenOffice the same way IBM people work on Eclipse. And the first thing they're going to do is they're going to sort of add this accessible to thing to the open document format and such.
Yeah, we don't have to go over the details.
Yeah,
though.
basically what they're going to work on first is they're going to make it so that if you're a blind or a deaf, I guess mostly blind, but also deaf people maybe, I guess. I don't think they have a problem with documents on computers. They're going to make it easier for blind people to use OpenOffice. So basically, if this works out, I see a lot of visually impaired people just dropping Microsoft Office and using OpenOffice.
Well, no, I got to read between the lines. I think the reason they're doing that first is because that generates a lot of good PR buzz and a lot of charity buzz and that sort of thing. Because the corporate culture in IBM is actually very big on charity and community work and things like that. Because good gets done, but it also makes the company look really good. IBM donates a lot of money to charity.
Yeah, but technologically speaking, this accessible to is actually interesting in that it's a technology. It's not just helps read the screen to the blind person. We have that already. It helps read text embedded in charts, menus, pictures, pop-ups, and hyperlinks. So it's actually really cool what it does, and that's pretty advanced stuff right there.
Yeah, but beyond that, I think the ulterior motive is that. IBM internally, we use like Lotus and crap, but really everyone just used Word. And philosophically and realistically, they don't want to have to keep upgrading and dealing with Word and new versions. And
if you're IBM, why do you want to pay Microsoft to have a word processor? You don't want to do that. That's just costing you money for nothing.
And also, IBM was putting a lot of money into Lotus and crap, and you know what? If they put the money into OpenOffice, they get the same benefits in terms of the technology getting better that they get putting it into Lotus. But they also get all the open stuff, and they get the goodwill of the Linux community, and they can, push their Linux on people with, look, we contribute back, and it's just a win situation for everyone but Microsoft.
And they can push out Microsoft, who they don't like. And Microsoft's not doing too well with their XML format they're trying to push. It keeps getting voted down all over the place.
There's reasons for that, but we'll save that for another show.
That could be a whole show, that one.
So, in other news, Rim's stomach just started rumbling.
Mine's been rumbling since I got home.
Let's get some Chinese food.
That sounds good.
This has been Geeknights with Rim and Scott. Special thanks to DJ Pretzel for the opening music.
Be sure to visit our website at www.frontrowcrew.com, where you'll find show notes, links, our awesome forum, a link to our Frapper map, and links to all the RSS feeds.
We say feeds plural because Geeknights airs 4 nights a week, covering 4 different brands of geekery. Mondays are science and technology. Tuesdays, we have video games, board games, and RPGs. Wednesdays are anime, manga, comic nights. And Thursdays are the catch-alls for various rants and tomfoolery.
You can send us feedback by email to geeknights@frontrowcrew.com. Or you can send audio feedback via Audio. Just click the link that says Send Me an Audio on the right side of our website.
If you like what you hear, you can catch the last 100 episodes in iTunes or in your favorite podcatcher. For the complete archives, visit the website, which has everything.
Geeknights is distributed under a Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial Share-alike 2.5 license. This means you can do whatever you want with it as long as you give us credit, don't make money, and share it in kind. Geeknights is recorded live with no studio and no audience. But unlike those other late shows, it's actually recorded at night.